I promised in previous videos that I was going to make some videos regarding the equity, diversity, and inclusivity training that teachers are receiving all over the country. Some of us would call that CRT training. They don't call it that, they call it EDI. But before I do that, I wanted to talk about something that came up in a conversation this morning with a fellow home educator. And I write about it in my book, one of my books, my little fun books that are not, they were really just kind of spilling my brains. Anyway, and it's something that I call the tipping point. In this conversation I was having with this good friend of mine, actually, she's my daughter's mother-in-law, and she works with the older kids a couple of days a week. And she is also a interest-based educator that has many years of experience. I should interview her for my channel here, actually. So anyway, she's part of a system and a methodology called Thomas Jefferson Education way of educating children, or encouraging them to educate themselves, shall we say. In any case, we were talking about how important it is to allow children to have room to grow, to have room to explore, and to become interested in something before we try to make them do it. And here's what happens in the public school system, and with most, and a lot of times in home education as well, homeschooling, which is different than home education, is that we as parents or teachers decide what we think our child should know. We go at it from the outside in, sort of a paradigm that we as parents or teachers, knowing better and having more experience in life and having hopefully gained some knowledge and wisdom along the way, kind of sit back and we say, there are certain things that kids need to know in order to be successful in life. I mean, they have to learn to read. They need to do at least basic math so they can keep a checkbook, and they understand the work, money relationship, how much work you have to put in to earn a dollar, and how to save. You need to know certain things about our history and our culture, our Constitution, and some educators and parents don't think that kids need to know that, but I'm just going off of my own orientation. Kids need to know how to spell. They need to know how to write or type. They need to know, there's a variety of things that we as parents and teachers decide. And curriculum writers and educational elitists and the powers that be out there in education make these decisions about what a child needs, they believe a child needs to know anymore. And I was just we were talking about this morning, as I continue to research and talk to teachers of all kinds, all persuasions. What's really emerging, excuse me, is the idea that in order for a child to have success in society, have success in the world, they have to learn their place. That first they need to understand all the barriers, they need to understand and internalize their challenges. We have to focus on the social aspect of a child before we can ever address the academic one. And that's backwards, right? You can't, without knowledge, without being exposed to ideas, without having an understanding of general knowledge. And I don't mean knowledge that tells you you're a victim, and not knowledge that tells you that if you're a person of color, that you have all these barriers. And I don't mean that kind of knowledge. I mean knowledge about life, knowledge about how the world works, exposing a child to great ideas that are universal themes in the human experience, character themes that we find in great biographies and in great fiction, in every culture. It's not just white culture, it's in every culture. And I'm all for giving kids exposure to all cultures and all of these universal themes, the archetypes, and so forth. If we don't give children these basic ideas about human nature and how human nature works and how their choices and decisions affect their future, and all you do is focus upon racial barriers and economic barriers, if you teach them that first and you speak to that first, a child never does gain that fundamental foundation for seeing the world as a place where they can succeed. And our education system needs to be based upon giving a child lots of knowledge, so then they see where they fit in the world and what they want to go out into the world and change. So I was talking to my friend about this and continued to think about it, and I wanted to share this concept of the tipping point. So the tipping point is that moment when a child realizes that they are autonomous. They have the presence of mind to understand that they really are in charge of their own life. And this is very individual for each child. Every child has a moment when they realize, this is not something I want to learn. This is not something I want to do. And from that moment on, when they realize they are in charge, they can comply, and you may never know that that tipping point has been reached. And they will go along with whatever you say because maybe they're passive aggressive and they don't want to confront you with it, or they really do want to please you, and so they go along with it, or they're afraid, they don't know which other thing to do. But every child has a moment when they realize they are an independent person that can choose to learn this or not, or choose to, and they choose to do it or they choose not to do it. You have a whole bunch of other kids who get in your face and say, I hate this, I don't want to do this. They are, impossible in class, and they're having they have all kinds of other issues, but they've reached the tipping point. What's important about the tipping point is that you generally lose a child's real momentum with learning when they make the decision that they don't want to learn something. So I had kids who understood this from like a very young age, and I have kids that didn't realize it, that they were really autonomous and they could go and do whatever they wanted to. Later, they were kind of, and we see this all around us, kids that are always looking to their adults to direct them and to tell them what to do. And then the other ones that have, it clicks early on, and they go off and they pursue the things that they want to pursue. What the interest-based model does is it just kind of eliminates all of the friction that happens at whatever point a child reaches their tipping point, because you bring your children up with the idea that they have the autonomy from the beginning and that they really have the responsibility of getting a first-class education. And it's one of the reasons why when the question comes to me, what am I going to do with my kids 24/7? How am I going to prepare them for college? I'm not smart enough. I can't do this. That I tell people, it's not up to you. You need to remove yourself as the authority and start just being a mentor to your child and teaching them how to learn, and teaching them that they can explore until they find their thing. And that is time well spent. because most of us, what is happening in our society now, I know, right? People are going into, they have to choose something in college or, an emphasis, and they go into something and they get out into the world and they don't like it. They don't want to do it. One of the best books you'll ever read is called The Talent Code. And in there, he begins the book by explaining or describing a recording that social scientists and educators and lots of people study about a little girl learning to play something on the violin, I think it is. And she's very intense in her concentration, and she does it over and over and over until she gets it. And the reason why they study this is because they found out that, being totally present and being totally immersed in some task or learning something is really what facilitates learning. It's not rote memorization. With rote memorization, you forget it. But when meaning happens, when it becomes meaningful to you, that you learn that because you want to master it for your own, satisfy something within you to do that. That's when the trajectory of your life changes. It changes your life to really intensely in an immersion situation and in immersive way, learn something and learn it deeply and learn it broadly. And this is what interest-based learning does for children. The opposite happens when a child sits in a classroom, or, even if there's a lively discussion going on, even if there's, hands-on activities going on, even if there's a lot of engagement, it's never going to be as effective and as life-changing and as long-term as a child that truly immerses themselves in something that they are discovering, that they are exploring, something that has a deep meaning for them. And that's what we're looking for. When a child reaches that tipping point and they decide on a daily basis, really, and an hour-to-hour basis, if what they're doing has meaning to them, and if they want to immerse themselves in that, that's when learning changes and learning stops taking place. And that's why you have little kids in kindergarten, first grade, maybe up through second grade, that are very interested in all the things they're being exposed to. But by the time you get to be about third, fourth, and on, you have a much harder time keeping kids engaged because they're not doing anything that has any meaning to them. And once in a while, sure, something catches their attention and they pay attention for a little bit. But that is education that does not really serve a child. So I just wanted to talk about the tipping point for a minute, the importance of allowing children to have an education. That's how you get a first class education, is by really changing your paradigm as a parent and as a teacher, and respecting that each child has their own unique mission in life, their own unique desires and interests, and giving them the blessing and the opportunity to explore that is what really brings meaning into every life. So, paradigm shift coming. I'm going to preach this to the end of my days, and I hope somebody out there ever listens to it. Have a great day.